Hi, everybody. Welcome to A Chat with Chaudhry. And I'm delighted to say I'm starting my new Reflection and Forecast 2024-2025 interview series where I speak to senior executives across the life science and pharma value chain to get their views on what's happened in the last 12 months and look ahead to what their views are to what we can expect in 2025. And I'm delighted to be kicking off the series with my good friends at the Society of Laboratory Automation and Screening, or SLAS or SLAS, however you want to pronounce it. And I'm joined by CEO Vicki Loise and VP for SLAS, Philipp Gribbon, from the Fraunhofer Institute for Translational Medicine and Pharmacology, based in Germany. And we're going to learn a bit more about what their views were in terms of how the year's gone so far and what they think some of the trends are going to be next year. So first of all, Vicki, Philip, it's lovely to see you both. How are you, first of all?
It's lovely to see you again, Rizwan.
And it's lovely to meet you for the first time, Philip.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything's going well. I think we're recording this towards the end of the year, so Christmas is coming. So it's a good time to reflect on what's happened and see how much progress you made or not made in the last 12 months. And it's
Fantastic.
great to have a conversation.
Brilliant. Now, before we start, though, Vicki, if you don't mind, for people not familiar with SLAS, can you give us a very quick overview of who you are and what your mission is?
Absolutely. So SLAS, the Society for Laboratory Automation and Screening, is a global life science organization. We have over 20,000 members from around the world, and we represent the intersection of the life science sector of discovery and technology. So those who are working in drug discovery or any area of life science in the labs, doing that wonderful, wonderful work. And then the folks on the technology side who are bringing the automation to those researchers to make their work more effective, more efficient, and bring those drugs to the public faster.
Brilliant. Philip, have you got anything to add that as VP of SLAS? Do you want to add anything? I'm sure Vicky's covered it all, but from your perspective, what do you think SLAS is all about?
I mean, like all organizations, SLAS is about people, and our mission in SLAS and the role that I have as a sort of vice president and as part of the board is to really make sure that our members who we report to and who we really want to help on their career journeys and on their journeys within their organizations to secure access and information about most up-to-date technologies so they can do their job better. So, we're really, at SLAS, we're about helping folk advance their careers and in doing so, really bring value to their organizations. And I think it's it's a great thing to be involved with. I have a research role, but I in my job at Fraunhofer, I don't do any teaching. So I don't teach students, but I sort of try to contribute to the community by getting involved in organizations like SLAS and try to give them some benefits of my experience over the years working in pharma, biotech, and also the academic and public-private sectors.
Fantastic. Now let's talk about 2024. My first question, I ask this every year when I interview people, and it's always interesting what they come up with. And particularly for this year, I think, which has been a very interesting year. How would you describe the year in one word and why? Vicki, maybe you kick us off on that.
In one word, I would say corrections is the word I would use. We've seen a lot of the companies, both on the discovery and the technology side, who are having to sort of right size themselves again post-pandemic. During the pandemic, both areas saw such tremendous growth, such tremendous need, that growth was at all-time highs, nothing we had ever seen before. And we're definitely now in a place in 24 where that pendulum is swinging back a bit. And I think it's settled down, and we're in a place now where the companies are feeling like they are at the right size, and they are still seeing tremendous demand, but certainly have been able to get themselves back to a place where things aren't quite as extreme demand and need as they had seen in previous years.
Right. Philip, from your point of view, what word would you use it to describe
So I'm going to cheat slightly and use a hyphenated word and say data-driven is how I see things happening in this past year. Here in Europe, we've seen a publication of something called the European Health Data Space Regulations, and this is a set of rules and regulations about how electronic health data and clinical data can be used both in patient care, but also for secondary purposes, for research purposes. And personally, I coordinate a very large European project. It's called IDERA with a group of pharma companies. It's a 50 million euro project. And we're really trying to build data infrastructures to actually utilize this data. But at the same time, the European Union is making sure that the legal framework exists. If you, in the past, in my sort of role in a screening center, if you wanted to know a protocol to assess the impact of your compounds in terms of your compounds' impact on cell viability, you would go to the literature and say, give me a protocol. Now you can just type into ChatGPT, please describe me a protocol for doing my assay, and it will come up with an assay protocol, which is plausible. Yeah. We've also seen in the direct application of machine learning and AI methods, many new companies setting up, both in Europe and the US and the rest of the world, to provide services around AI-informed, data-driven, early drug discovery, whether that's suggesting ligands for targets or whether it's assisting in the design of clinical trials. The application of data to the process of drug discovery and development is just advancing incredibly quickly in 2024, and it's only set to go further in 2025.
Right, fantastic. Right, let's talk about SLAS though, and how the year's been for SLAS. So Vicki, what are some of the highlights for you for SLAS this year, 2024?
We've had another really great year at SLAS. We started off the year with our international conference in Boston. That was the second time we've been to Boston, and we found that community there really is a great home for SLAS, a great East Coast home for us. We welcomed over 7,500 people to that conference over the 3 days in Boston. So that's how things kicked off. And then in the middle of the year, we had our Europe conference in Barcelona with about 1,000 attendees there as well, and really saw a great response from our European community, who are really appreciative and are enjoying that opportunity for them to be able to come together sort of on their home turf, somewhat, so to speak, and really had a wonderful event. Throughout the course of the year, as always, we do produce 2 journals, SLAS Discovery and SLAS Technology. Those are both open source journals, and those publish throughout the year. So, and those have been doing very, very well this year as well. And then, of course, our symposia on a variety of topics. Those took place both in Europe and in the US. Topics like sample management, which has always been a really, really popular topic and a great community to bring together. So those are the highlights of what we've seen in 2024.
Fantastic. And Philip, from your perspective, slightly different because obviously you've got the research angle from your point of view. What do you think have been some of the highlights for SLAS this year?
I loved the Barcelona meeting. It was a great location. In fact, probably too nice because sometimes the delegates are tempted to go outside. But the quality of the talks and also the quality of the interactions and the colleagues that were drawn both from Europe and from the US as well. So we had a good attendance from outside of Europe. That was really great. And I was able to restart some conversations and collaborations that I've had with folk in Boston at the Broad Institute, that they were there, and we had some really good interactions. And overall, it was a fantastic event. And I think at SLAS, when you're sort of working at the board level, it's things that you didn't see before, but there's been a lot of hard work done by the executive team and also by the board team and by all the folk who are sort of running the office and implementing all of the initiatives that we want to set up. So it's great to see the sort of hard work and the teamwork that's going on and the good communication. And I think we're on a good trajectory to continue to do that. So for me it's those the quality of the meetings, but also the personal interactions I have with the team and the opportunity to sort of work with them. It's really good.
Fantastic. Now, look, let's talk a bit more about what some of the challenges have been that the industry's faced. You both have touched on a little bit in your answers when I asked you how to describe the year in one word. But Philip, maybe you can tell us a bit more and kick off from your perspective. What do you think some of the main challenges are that the sector's faced this year?
So I think we're going to be moving from a situation. It's the study of lab automation and screening. Yeah. And I think there's going to be less screening of large libraries of compounds. So really, it's about scale. So in the past, it was really very much about how many hundreds of thousands, how many millions of compounds will I be able to analyze in any one screening campaign. But I think now, we've seen this year, and I've certainly in my experience, there's certain new modalities and new ways of generating drugs. So there's something called targeted protein degradation, and there's classes of drugs called PROTACs. With those types of drugs, you're maybe only wanting to screen maybe 300, 400, 500 compounds at any one time. You want to get the data from that, put it into an AI algorithm, and then it'll suggest some new compounds, and you synthesize even less next time. So I think one of the challenges is going to be this transition from thinking purely about scale and having large automation systems providing that scale to ones where you've got more boutique, more sort of focused assays that you need to perform on a case by case, on a project by project basis. So it's about moving from a large scale to a much more agile system, more information rich assays, and that takes time to adapt to that new paradigm, whereby it's the computational resources which are sort of where all the at scale stuff happens. It combines all the data sets, but the actual experimental needs are fewer, let's say, after that. So I think that's a technical challenge that that our sector has to face in the future as the influence of modern methods like machine learning, etc., come more to the fore.
Right. And Vicki, as an organizer of obviously events, though, have you seen the challenges change for yourself as an organizer this year in terms of putting on an event like SLAS or SLAS Europe? I mean, have there been different challenges this year, or is the same challenges you'd always have as an event organizer anyway?
One of the challenges that we've seen in 2024 was that the funding for small biotechs really didn't exist. There was no growth there. It had shrunk quite a bit.
Sure.
And a lot of those small companies are struggling as a result. And we do have resources for those small companies, but it's tough sometimes for them to decide where they're going to focus with such limited resources.
Sure.
I do think that's something that's going to change in 2025. At least the word on the street is that some of those funding buckets will loosen up a little bit, and we'll start to see some reinvestment again back into those small biotech firms. So hopefully we'll see that sector rebound and grow again.
We'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the 2025 section. But let me ask you about, and again, Philip, you touched about this bit in terms of your challenges. In terms of key trends, I mean, you talked about AI and machine learning as well in your discussion just there as well a bit earlier. So what have you seen as the key trends this year emerge? I mean, obviously AI machine learning, people were talking about last year as well, is come to the fore even more so this year. So as well as those two, what else have you seen trend-wise in 2024 sort of come to the fore?
Yeah, I would say things like combining modalities, as it were. So in the past, a group might have been happy just to perform a screen and do a high content screen and do a sort of microscope driven screen and get images of what's happening in the cell and see how the morphology and the physiology of the cell changes in response to a compound being treated. But actually now you also need to integrate other data sets from, let's say, proteomics analysis. So you want to see not just how the shape or function of a cell changes, but you want to see how the expression and the levels of all the different proteins in that cell, that also linked to the action of the compound, see how they change as well. So you've got this requirement to integrate data and results from different areas that typically had been isolated. And then you get to this question about interoperability of data and making data fair as well. So it still comes back to data, but now you need to get more from your data, and you need to combine those in an effective way and understand what's happening. So I see that as an important trend this year, is to be able to integrate all of these different data sets coming from different types of investigations, so that you get a single view of the potential of a drug, and also what the downsides it might be in terms of its off-target safety, toxicity, associated effects as well. And to be honest, those pipelines are not there yet. That understanding is not there yet, and so that's really an active course of work that's going on. And certainly in my institution, we've got multiple data scientists who are working really diligently on trying to close the gap between these different data sources, so that we can then create these complete pictures of how drugs are affecting cells, tissues, and ultimately humans as well when we treat them in the clinic.
Right. And Vicki, anything to add from your perspective in terms of trends? I mean, obviously from who's exhibiting at the show, the profile. I mean, I was looking at 2025 exhibitor list, and funny you mentioned data integration. I can see a lot more companies there who are exhibiting now, who I haven't seen exhibit before, who are all about data integration and creating that software that people can then get those different aspects of data and integrate them together. So from your perspective, what are some of the trends that you've seen in 2024?
Yeah, you're spot on. Those companies in that data integration, data management space are exactly where we're seeing new companies coming into SLAS. This is definitely the focus area where a lot of our members are having to learn how to switch things over into a more data integrated platform within their labs. So we're seeing the exact same things that you saw as well.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and maybe to add that there's this whole concept of orchestration as well is coming much more to the fore. So you can have your data and your result, but you have to turn that into an action. So you have to tell your compound management facility to produce this compound. You have to then inform your assay practitioners and your assay experts to set up the assay for that day and bring it all together, and then get your new results, synthesize a new compound. And actually it's managing that and orchestrating that entire process, so you can do that efficiently on a maybe 10-day, 2-week turnaround cycle. That's an incredible challenge, and also it's the individuals' times and their coffee and tea breaks are linked also to the synthetic pathways that you choose to use for actually synthesizing your compounds, and it's bringing all that stuff together in an effective, well-managed way. It's incredible. Yeah, that what's able to be done now, and I think we're just at the point where organizations are being able to implement that in a robust manner to support their day-to-day working.
Well, that's really interesting. And it just struck me actually that it has become obviously a big trend because it's at a big show like SLS that the companies are now at. Because obviously before, a lot of those companies, I know having been to so many shows in the last few years, they tend to be more at specifics, pharma lab sort of type shows. But now they've come to SLAS because obviously it's becoming more mainstream and the need is becoming more mainstream in terms of what people want. Now let's look ahead to 2025. Now, Vicki, you already touched upon this a little bit in your answer when you talked about biotechs and the lack of investment, if you like, this year in biotechs. So if you're looking at it from a macro level, and I mean, I don't know whether Philip or Vicki want to kick us off, but what do you see in terms of the industry and in terms of levels of investment? I mean, Philip, you're talking about you working on a project which is like 50, would you say 50 million? Hopefully I was listening properly.
It's a 50 million euro
Yeah,
project.
yeah. So I was listening. Good. I'm glad to hear it. So, but then if you say looking at investment next year, because obviously, again, speaking to a lot of companies and organizations this year, a lot of people talked about it's been a very difficult year, a lot of uncertainty, obviously, with the election in the US and across lots of countries, actually, and so on. And lots of external factors. But what do you see? How positive are you in terms of investment in 2025? Do you think the sector will see more money invested in it compared to this year?
That is what Yeah, that's what that, like I said, that is what is being talked about in the biotech sector, in the investment sector. Phil and I were actually at an event here in Chicago about a month ago that it was the Chicago Biocapital Consortium. And even here in Chicago, which is certainly nothing compared to Boston or San Diego when it comes to a biotech hub, it is growing. And you could see that there was a much more positive and enthusiastic feel amongst that community, amongst that biotech sector around the fact that funding is going to become easier to obtain later in 2025. And this event was after the election, and the feeling was still the same. So I think that's going to hold true. I wouldn't say we're going to see, an avalanche of funding come January 1. I think it's going to be slow and measured, but it's definitely going to be an improvement over what has taken place over the last couple of years.
Right. And Philip, what's your view, from a European perspective as well? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, much European funding, a lot of it is sort of seeded from public sources like the
Right.
European Investment Bank and elsewhere. I can see that that's maybe slowing down a little bit. We see, here in Germany that some of the budgets for innovation might be not as high as they once were. So I think the sort of public sector funding, which is the one, I'm most familiar with, let's say, is it kind of lagging behind a little bit, what's sort of slightly out of phase with the investment funding that's coming from industry and for the other investment organizations. But I had only this morning, I was talking to a large biotech investment company, and they asked me, please send all of your what I think the question was, we want to know what's cooking in Fraunhofer. Yeah. So, and I'm very happy to sort of put the plates out in front of folks. So there's there's certainly money and resources if you've got the right ideas, if you've got the right platform, if you understand what the drawback around your targets might be, what the benefits are, if you're able to differentiate your offer from that of others. And I think those are sort of fundamentals of the whole investment process, whether it's, you're competing for a academic or public funding, or whether you're competing for private funding. It always down to the quality of the idea, the quality of the team, and what the long-term commercial potential is. And if you can get those fundamentals right, then I think support will follow on from that.
Brilliant. Now, let's talk about the challenges, though. You touched on challenges, obviously, in 2024. In terms of the industry and sector, what do you think some of the challenges still are likely to be in the coming year? Philip, do you want to kick us off on that one?
I think, unfortunately here in Europe, we're likely to enter a period of sort of political stasis because of the situation in France, but also here in Germany as well. And I think it may take some time for the decision makers to move from, who's like the questions about who's in charge to answering questions about, how do we invest for the future innovation economy within Europe. I think that discussion's a little bit is on the back burner at the moment. So I see that the political leadership driving the innovation agenda within Europe isn't as active as it should be, because it's got other things on its mind, and I'm hoping that doesn't lead to a sort of a loss of capacity or good ideas not being effectively progressed. So I think that for me is a slight it's a major concern here, especially in Germany, as when they see those things happening. Yeah, that's it. But it doesn't keep me awake at night. But because I know that we have enough good ideas, and it's not just those sort of public funding, but there's a whole variety of different funding mechanisms that small companies and academic drug discovery organizations, but also larger companies as well. They also look for, as I mentioned before, the European Investment Bank is a big backer of larger companies' innovation pipeline. So yeah, let's hope things get better at the end of 2025 on that side, on that front.
Right. And Vicki, have you got anything to add to that from a challenge point of view?
I would say it's, very similar here in the US. Right now, we're sort of living under a giant question mark and waiting to see what happens once the Trump administration comes into power and what sort of activities will actually play out. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of conversation, a lot of proposals, and just sort of waiting and seeing how many of those actually come to fruition is what we're all waiting for, and seeing what kind of influence that then does have on the science sector, but also the automation sector and building those technologies.
Right. Now let's look at trends then. And so what exciting new things can we expect to see in 2025? And as the man who works obviously at a research institute, Philip, I'm going to ask you what sort of exciting things can people expect to see trend-wise coming out in the sector in the next 12 months?
So I mean, I think that it's actually always in my mind that I'm fixated on data. So I'll say it again. But there'll be opportunities, before the end of 2025 for, let's say, individual patients who have their electronic health records, and they may decide for whatever reason, altruistic reasons, even financial reasons, to donate their electronic health records and their health data to different organizations. It could be a charity or research institution which is working on disease that they're interested in, or it could be a pharmaceutical company that's looking to create a virtual cohort as a placebo control in a clinical trial. So I think that will be really exciting, that people will be able to actually be in not such a marketplace, but have opportunities to share their data, and in doing so, we'll have opportunities to advance for everybody the process of innovation, the discovery of new medicines and new treatments. And I think that's a really liberating thing that many of us be able to do. We often go to the doctors and we're checked over, and then the health records disappear into their system. But now, certainly in Europe, we've got control over it, and then we can use those records to help drive innovation, and that will help us in the SLAS community, because we know what are the best targets to be working on, what are the best delivery systems, the best in vitro diagnostics. You can aggregate all of that data and answer key questions using this real world data, real world evidence, to help drive forward the process of innovation. And it will be within the power of the citizen and individuals. And that's really cool. And I can't wait until I get a chance to do that. I think it would be a good day. And that's coming in the next 12 to 18 months, I would say, easily.
Right. And Vicki, from your perspective, from a SLAS perspective, I know you've got Innovation Avenue and lots of other things which go on, which sort of highlight some of the key innovations coming out and what trends are happening. I mean, from your perspective, is anything that you've seen for 2025 that is exciting you think this is going to be so we should look out for?
Yes. So I am really happy to be able to talk about a new offering that we'll have at SLAS 2025 in San Diego at the end of January. It's called Nexus XP. And this is something that we have been working on for over a year. This will be a pavilion on the exhibit floor where we are going to give everybody the opportunity to see how some of those integrations that we've been talking about actually play out, whether it's integration between technology and data and science, or experiments, or what have you. There is an entire pavilion that is going to show this from the design, make, test, and analyze point of view. And I encourage everyone to take a look at this. You can see it on the SLAS 2025 site. You do have to have a ticket to get in. If you don't have your ticket, you need to get one now because they're going fast. But this is a really new and exciting thing that we have been, like I said, been developing for a year. There will be presentations given within this pavilion as well, talking about some of the experiences that folks have had in working with their technology providers or working with other researchers, whether it's on the other side of the world or right next door, and how they make that integration work for them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's a lovely segue into my next question, which was, what can we expect from SLAS in 2025? So you've already touched upon, obviously, the event coming up in San Diego. So for viewers who aren't aware of when it's going to be, perhaps you can tell viewers, first of all, when and where it's going to be in January, and what else they can expect from SLAS in 2025.
Sure. So SLAS 2025 is our annual international conference and exhibition. This year, it's going to be in sunny San Diego, which I am very enthusiastic about since I'm sitting here in very snowy Chicago right now. I can't wait to get to San Diego. So the event is January 24th through the 27th in 2025 in San Diego. You can go to slas.org to learn more about that. The other exciting event that we're going to be having in 2025 is our Europe conference, and it is going to be in Phil's hometown of Hamburg, Germany. And this will be our first time coming to Hamburg, but it's not going to be our last. And we are very, very excited to be in Hamburg. This is going to be, we think, kind of like our Boston of Europe. So we've already got some really new opportunities for folks to engage, for education, for talking to exhibitors and talking to those technology providers. That event is May 20th through the 22nd. Again, go to slas.org to learn more about it. Registration is already open.
Fantastic. Phil, you want to add anything to what Vicki said?
I absolutely want to. I'm so proud that SLAS has decided to choose Hamburg as its location for its European meeting in 2025. I think it's an amazing city. I lived here for the last 18 years and with my family, and you know, it's so great. And to be able to show it to visitors, and to, you know, also showcase all of the great biotechnology and scientific activities that happen within Hamburg. We have the new Science City Hamburg, which is over €1 billion worth of investment in scientific infrastructure and innovation. It's the location of the XFEL free electron laser, one of the brightest laser sources in the world for working on X-ray laser sources for working on structural biology. And we have great companies like Evitech and Eppendorf and Revity and others, all located in Hamburg. Great universities, great river. It's a fantastic place. And for those who like nightlife, we have the Reeperbahn, which is world famous. It wasn't just from the Beatles onwards. It's been great. I don't spend too much time there, but yeah, we're looking forward to welcoming everybody to Hamburg. And it's easy to get to. It's at the nexus between Scandinavian countries and the north of Europe. So jump on a train and come to Hamburg have a green journey, and we'd be happy to meet you and show you around town and you know, really show you what we can offer as a life science hub, and what SLAS can also provide to its community in terms of a great educational experience, and to learn a lot about science and meet their colleagues and have those kind of conversations that really underpin, you know, innovation and scientific advancement.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Phil. There you go, viewers. So the details for both those events, you can go to the SLS website, but the link will be above this video anyway, so you can click on that for both events and learn more. One question I will ask you, Vicki, as I've got you here, and this wasn't planned, by the way, viewers, I'm asking this off the cuff. She's getting worried now, thinking what I'm going to ask her, is obviously you focus very much historically on North America and Europe. Have you thought about expanding to Asia or the Middle East? Because I know in other segments that I work with, they've expanded to large events now in the Middle East, in Singapore, in Korea, in China, or India. I mean, have you thought of expanding? I'm sure you have thought of it, but I mean, are there any plans going forward to maybe look at expanding the SLS brand and experience outside of Europe and North America?
Yes, we have thought about this, and we have started having conversations about this at the board level. We're actually going to undergo a new strategic planning process while we're in San Diego. Our current strategic plan will expire at the end of 26. And I think within this new plan, expanding beyond North America and Europe is definitely going to be a major component of that plan. I too have seen some of these new events that have come to be in the Middle East, and have been really impressed by the growth that is happening in that part of the world. Of course, Asia has always been a strong life science center, and someplace where we do see quite a bit of activity coming to us. But I hear you when you folks, if everybody out there is saying we really would love it to see SLAS come to them. So stay tuned.
No, that's cool. I mean, to be honest, I'm happy with North America and Europe. I've got enough travel to do, but I'm just thinking for the people who aren't there who just say that. That's fantastic. Right. So finally, then, when by the time people watch this, this will be the new year anyway. So, what would be your New Year message to anyone watching this right now for 2025? Maybe Vicki, you can. Well, actually, Philip, you can finish it. Actually, Vicki, Philip, why don't you? So, what's your message for 2025 for anyone watching this?
I would say book your tickets for Hamburg. Come and visit us and have a great time in the end of May. The sun goes down after 10 o'clock at night, so it's dark days now, but you can have a lovely evening with a nice drink in your hand and talk to your research colleagues in Hamburg at the end of May. Looking forward to seeing you then.
Fantastic. And Vicki, what was your last word for everyone watching this for 2025?
Well, likewise, make sure you book your tickets for Hamburg. I've had the opportunity to be there a few times. They are humble about how really incredible of a science city that this place is. And I think if you're taking the time to come to the event in Hamburg, you're going to find that to be very true. And of course, if you're watching this in January, you're going to want to go to San Diego because there's a very good possibility that whenever you're watching this, it's a little chilly. And San Diego is lovely at the end of January. Where else can you be with, 7,000 to 8,000 of your closest colleagues in the lab automation and screening sector? There will be so many exciting things to see and do as part of the conference. So please don't waste any more time. Sign up now.
Fantastic. Well, look, I wish you both. I know viewers are going to find this weird when they're watching this in January, but I wish you both a fantastic festive break, a fantastic season, and obviously a wonderful 2025. Both prosperous, successful, but also hopefully healthy as well. So I hope you have a fantastic year. And viewers, thank you for watching. I wish you a fantastic 2025 as well. Until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.